Imagine going to the doctors for the common cold.
And instead of getting medication, you get drugged with LSD for 77 days.
Ruining your life for 20 years.
Welcome to the Pretty Much It podcast, where our episode is on MK Uncovered. This episode will investigate MK Ultra, one of the government's biggest secrets that we still don't understand to this day. This episode will try to understand how far the MK Ultra project reached.
So to begin with some brief background on the MK Ultra experiments, which they occurred during 1953 to 1973. It was an illegal CIA LSD experiments. It was believed to be used for mind control potential. The U.S. feared opposing threats to use ways to brainwash U.S. prisoners of war during the Korean War, which at the height of the time seems very unlikely in my opinion. But at the same time, we don't really know because of how little technology we had back then. There was human experiments that took place, including psychedelic drugs, paralytics, and electroshocks, which was a lot of just torture. So they could easily brainwash via just trauma. And CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of all the documents on the project. So clearly there was a lot of secrecy that wanted to be hidden and or vigilantes on the rise.
There's also another conspiracy about this MK Ultra project that has come after the fact. It was actually part of the Unabomber case, but where Ted Kaczynski, a Harvard graduate, actually killed 3 people by sending them bombs and packages and injured 23 others. But this is not a confirmed theory. It is just one of many that we have today.
Another idea based on the MK Ultra project was the Manchurian Candidate film from 1962. This film is about an American-Korean War soldier who is brainwashed by communists to become a sleeper assassin. Now, this film came out while MK Ultra was happening. So it's kind of weird that the idea of a brainwashed assassin happens while the CIA is using LSD on normal citizens for brainwashing. So with the Manchurian theory, there isn't much info because it was a movie from citizens before the MK files were released. So it's mistrusting in some places, but still a good theory.
One of our main theories today is that MK Ultra wasn't a failure. They actually succeeded in mind controlling people. There is no physical evidence to actually support this answer, but there is some signs that this could be true. The fact that all 80% of the documents of the MK Ultra program were destroyed could show us that they really had something to hide. And the fact that if they succeeded, they would be the main documents that they would not have lost. So, of course, the main documents would have been destroyed. Also, why keep the program running for 20 years if you're not seeing any success in mind controlling people? It wouldn't make any sense. If you had successful in mind controlling, yeah, you would keep the program going for 20 years. So it would make sense if they had successfully mind controlled citizens. Now, there is a couple holes. Like I said, there's no physical evidence to support it, but that doesn't mean they didn't find a way to successfully mind control people. Again, this is just a theory.
Now, bouncing off Ethan's evidence erasal, coming from Apollo Imperium about their article on MK Ultra, it states that CIA Director Richard Helms ordered that all the MK Ultra documents be destroyed. He literally tried to erase all evidence of the program, and he almost succeeded. Thousands of files were shredded, and it looked like MK Ultra might disappear in the shadows forever, as cited. So there are signs to the point where they are hiding something now. Succession, possibly, because they don't want others to take such documents and use them for their own. Or on the other end, they just failed, and they don't want to admit it because they don't want to be wrong. Because most people don't wish to be wrong, and they don't want to prove it. With the CIA, they definitely don't want to be wrong. Now, physical evidence is now destroyed, obviously, so to back the support of succession is kind of a gray area. There's no 100% confirmation, but the signs do point that there was succession, and there also was not succession.
There is also some support from an ex-CIA agent, John Kiriakou, that says that they found some way to successfully put ideas into people's heads and make it come true. Now, it isn't fully supported by everything, but from the tales that we have heard and the stories that we have that have been confirmed, this is factually true.
Now, could MK Ultra still be happening today? It's a possibility. Now, it'd be a lot harder to hide such evidence if it was still happening today with so much more technology and people love snooping around. Well, one example is Neuralink from Elon Musk, where they would implant a chip into your brain and kind of it can do like it present itself as just kind of a assistant. You can listen to music through your brain directly, only to yourself. But it's also up to people with disabilities. But obviously, with anything that seems to be helpful, it can also help others take advantage and do other things and such. Another theory about MK Ultra that we have researched and divulged into was that MK Ultra was the main experiment, but then on the other side there was a lot of sub-experiments that were a part of it, which this is backed up via released files and such, because there is approval and funding situations for sub-project XYZ. So if you look through files on MK Ultra, there is proof that there was also other projects. The thing is, it's really hard to find really any information on the other projects.
Some of the key pieces of evidence that we found was that the CIA mainly used LSD for the experiments, and also missing documents that were destroyed.
We actually have some evidence backing up that a certain Dr. Ewan Cameron was a main contributor to MK Ultra, but also a main sub-project of MK Ultra. So Dr. Ewan Cameron was a psychiatrist. Now what he did, he was a main partner for this project. So he was actually Canadian, not American. That's why he was a sub-project. And he would take patients in with just regular old diseases. One of the stories that we heard from BBC News actually was that they took in a man that was a athletic, healthy guy who just had asthma problems. They said they could cure his asthma, but then they put him on the MK Ultra program, drugging him with LSD. And actually they gave him insulin, and they gave him so much insulin, they put him in an insulin coma for 30 days. And while they did this, they also played that his family doesn't love him. We hear from another survivor on BBC that they played this constantly, nonstop, and that she heard it from 200,000 times to 250,000 times. Now, let's answer why these theories have come to pass. It's because we don't have all the files. We don't know what actually happened.
Because of distrust in the government, missing files, which led to the distrust, and just so many unanswered questions that will more than likely be left unanswered for the rest of eternity unless there's a stockpile of extra files, remnants, people just get really good at snooping and such.
It's very hard to say if it's true or not. So, of course, these theories are going to pop up, and they should. Theories are always a good thing in a case like this.
But there really is no way to tell when or how these answers will be found. It's just the fact that there's nothing for us to go off based on at the current moment.
Now, the media has framed this as the government is very evil. And I would agree. The government is very evil.
So, government being evil, off what Ethan said. Now, it's very opinionated, but more likely they are just hiding stuff. The media is going to tell you that there's a lot of just hidden components and facts that are just not being presented because the government doesn't want to give them up. Which obviously they don't want to give them secrets because with this being mind control, it could be really world altering and life changing for many, many people.
So, Kale and Jace, which one of these do you think is the most likely theory out of all the three we have presented today?
So I'll start. So I'm going to say my least likely. I think the Manchurian Project is probably the least likely, in my opinion, as it was done in the 60s. It was done during the time that MK Ultra happened. So files weren't fully released yet. It's an interpretation. So it's just kind of what people thought was happening. There's like not much to back it necessarily. And just with the time period it's being, I don't believe it that much. But my most likely was the subdivisions, as there is physical proof and files that support that, with, as stated previously, the funding clearances, the actual approval documents. Although the one gray area and loss is there's no description within the subdivisions themselves, so we don't know exactly what actually happened. So like when I researched, I just saw there was clearances for sub project 11, sub project 12. There's a couple of different names. They just use numbers and names for it. But those the subdivisions is definitely my most likely, in my opinion, for it. Now, Jace, what do you think?
So, what I think is the most credible theory right now is probably the succession of MK Ultra. Just because of the destroyed documents, I think that they are hiding something and that they did have succession in mind controlling people.
I'm gonna have to agree with Jace on this one. I really do love the subdivision theory. I think it's true on many counts, but I really do think they had some success in MK Ultra. Otherwise, it just doesn't really make sense for the program to have existed for that long. But that's just my opinion. This is just all our opinions. There are still many secrets to MK Ultra because of the destroyed documents, but we know the experiments were harsh and unacceptable of our government to hide. Thanks for being here today on this episode on MK Uncovered.
Next week, this podcast will investigate The Simpsons predicting the future in order to understand how are they good at predicting.
Thank you for joining us on Pretty Much It. I'm Cam Covered. If you wish to see our sources and our works cited, those are links in the description. Thank you for listening.